YouTube.
Yep.
And we're live, which is great. You know what? I don't want to do music today. I want to. How do you get it?
I don't know, but
What the heck?
yeah, I know, it's sweet.
It's like that's like a Zoom thing. Evan, you do it. See if you can get anything. 3, 2, 1. Evan, either the speed test is even way worse, or you didn't have headphones in.
No, it's fine now. I was muted. I was dealing with something.
Do the lasers again, Matt. Do the lasers again.
No, you don't need to do that. That's all right.
Evan, get your lasers. You try it.
Really
You do it, Evan.
No, I'm good. I'm good. With what? I don't have an image.
Some tech intern created the lasers, and Evan's just like, I'm tired of the lasers.
Dude, they came up with that after going to the smoothie bar, so people are slowly coming in. Evan is dropping every mic that he owns in his house. Welcome. We know who's already here.
Apparently.
Casey's already here. Happy to have you. Welcome back. It has been like a month since we've done a Facebook Live.
Too long.
Yeah, so I said a month. So welcome back, everybody. Feel free to tune in. Give us a hello in the chat. Tell us where you're from. If you're a builder, explorer, or defender, or what path you're walking right now in Bestunia, drop it in the chat. Tap into your nerdy side. Tap into that vulnerable side. Tap into your authentic side, and let us know a little bit about you using the realm of fantasy. I'm your host, Dylan. Matt is also here, and our Chief Happiness Officer, Evan Winston. How you doing today, Evan?
Hi.
There we go.
I'm all right. We getting an echo in here? I'm in a totally empty room.
We getting an echo in
Sounds
here?
good.
I'm totally in an empty room. No. It
Oh,
sounds
wait, I heard it.
First off, shout out Casey, who left work early to come home, open his Facebook, and watch a Facebook Live. Let's say congratulations. Let's not
Thank you, Casey. Welcome.
let's not say that's embarrassing. We got a bunch that we're chatting about today. Matt and I just thought of it 5 minutes ago. We're going to be talking about upcoming projects we have. We're going to be talking about maybe Dylan the Juggler. We're going to be talking about lessons that we learned from a head of sales when it comes to Bestunia. Evan's going to love that. We're going to be talking about a narrative drive homework as we talk to Hollywood screenwriter. And we're also going to be chatting with Evan about creating 2 pieces of work. Evan, correct me if I'm wrong. We're going to do half and half today, right?
I don't know. I don't know how this is gonna. I mean, we're gonna do a little bit of both.
Perfect.
We'll see how far we get. Yep.
Evan doesn't know what we're doing today. I think we're doing 2 things. We do communicate on this team, I promise. We're for sure going to see a scene from the upcoming children's book, which we're running a Kickstarter right now. And then potentially we're going to see a scene from a upcoming novel, young adult novel, that Matt has been working on.
Beautiful. Can I plug the Kickstarter and something that's going on right now?
Matt, for the love of God, please let me stop talking.
Beautiful. All right. Let me take the mic. So Kickstarter ongoing. We've got another 11 days on it or so. It's built around this children's book that you'll see being illustrated for right now. It's called The Adventures of Becc and Ceith, who are 2 young kids. The notion around this story, as we zoom out and you'll see more of this image, these kids are on a boat right now. There you go. You notice it is like a Viking ship.
Great zoom out, Evan. Great zoom out. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Right on the cue. And in the section of the world, I'll show a map here in a little bit. They're like right on the coast, of course, being a seafaring people. And there's this whole island or whole string of islands off this coast, hundreds of islands. And on each of these islands, there are these isolated cultures. And so a big part of the Kickstarter is you as a parent who has a kid, maybe that kid is a couple years old, maybe they're 5, 6 years old, has an opportunity to build a adventure of Becc and Ceith around your kid, where they get to go sailing off to this island where your tribe lives and learn a lesson from your kid. So your kid will get illustrated, your kid will get a calling, just like their spiritual companion. they'll get a cool name, like Becc the Brave, like Keith the Curious, like let's see, Haley the Harmonious.
I have another one.
Yeah.
One of the backers, which you can still back if you click that link. One of the backers is going to be named Summit the Scholarly, and teach the lesson of how it's important to learn as much as possible and gather all of the information needed to make educated decisions. We're going to have Luke, which is based off a kid named Lucas. Luke the Light. Right now we're stuck at Light Seer. We might change it to Light Bringer, Light Bearer, Lighthearted. He's going to be talking about seeing the good in all things. Becc and Ceith are going to be going to this island that's all dark all the time, and they get scared of most of the shadows that they see until Luke shines the light to tell them there's nothing to be afraid of. Matt left, so let me think if there's any other ones. Hold on. There's 6, which is great. I know the names of the kids, but we haven't thought of. Declan is another name. It could be Declan the Daring. What's another good D? If you have a good D, put it in the.
You're good. Just carry on.
Adjective, would that be the name?
Yeah.
If you have a good D adjective, throw it in the chat. Declan the what? Daring. I mean, anything else. Devious isn't good. We're gonna have other names as well. Continue, Matt.
Yes, as part of this right now, in the next couple of days, if you haven't backed yet, you will be eligible to win this sword in a raffle. It's part of the other project that we're working on right now is a young adult novel. We'll definitely talk at length about this a little bit more. But one of the characters is based on Dylan. Another character is based on me. A third character based on Evan. And
I haven't met the character yet.
Evan does have a character. Evan is Cancratch the volcano. Evan is based off an erupting volcano.
But one of the things that Dylan's character carries around all the time is this Bakken. I did look it up, and the jury says Bakken, not Boken. But say it however you want.
I'll say it wrong.
Yeah, I know you will. It's a very Joran thing to do, to purposefully mispronounce. And so until Sunday, anybody who backs the Kickstarter will be eligible to win this Bakken in a raffle. And it's got a little etching here. Might not be able to see that.
No way we can see it.
You can see that. Just squint your eyes a little bit. Well, if you didn't see that, then back the Kickstarter. Maybe you'll win this in a raffle, then you can see it.
Currently, we're at 39 backers, $5,300 we have raised. Again, all this goes towards making the books. It's not like we get profit margins on this. The idea is eventually we turn this into a business. But right now, we think it's really cool to create things for young kids to help them see. And for parents, if you think about it, it's like my friend Justin is creating this for his kid, Lucas. And he's like, I think it's amazing that my kid is going to have a book with a lesson that he can have for the rest of his life. Like, it's just kind of cool for parents to tap into imagination, for kids to be able to tap into their imagination, make sense out of their life through imagination and creativity. So, if you'd like to back, feel free to back that. Go ahead, Matt.
It'll be cool someday, too, for, frankly, anybody that has a kid by this name to be able to pick up this book. I'm guessing that the vast majority of Declans in the world are probably Irish, white. And
they're all going to look the same. They're all going to look exactly like the Declan that Evan creates. Our job as colleagues of Evan is just to give him things that are more and more difficult as time goes on. And then the next one's going to be create a character that looks like every Declan in the world.
Yeah. We're going to do some Declan research. It'll be the average of all Declans. No, just kidding. Declan the Destined, Casey recommended.
I know, I really like that. I put it across. Teaches about making your own destiny, like you creating your own and what you're here for. I think that's awesome. I even said love that, Casey. I don't know if you saw that, Matt, or this from Casey.
Oh,
boom,
beautiful.
Boom, boom, boom. Any other upcoming projects? That's the main one right now. Is the children's book, children's Kickstarter. We're excited. I think, Evan, correct me if I'm wrong. I never want to speak out of turn. Like 2 to 3 books children's books a year is what we'll shoot for. And then they'll be available. We'll either run Kickstarters or it'll be on the website. Does that seem about right, Evan, pace-wise? Roughly?
Yeah.
1 to 3.
Yeah, let's go with that.
1 to 3. So if you'd like your kid to come to life in a children's book, in a future children's book, or if you're thinking about having a kid and you're like, I'd love to be on the waiting list for 2 to 3 years, feel free. Back to Kickstarter. We'd love to work with you. Hey, a lot of people plan that way, man. A lot of people are like, hey, our kid's 6 months.
Hey,
which
I
means
know.
we're going to start trying in 2 months, which means that hopefully he'll have a sibling, and it's wild. You don't really realize this until you become a parent, right? Like, I never talked about this stuff.
Well, in fairness, too, I'm expecting now in December, and if I were to back, which I did, for Haley, for my niece, but if I were to back twice,
which is a possibility.
That's an option. Get to. Then in about a year and a half, I'll have a real human and can base it on them then. So even if you don't have this kid yet, or you're expecting this kid, then
and let's
be you applied for daycare yet,
Matt? Nah.
If you have a guess of what people have to pay for daycare in San Francisco, feel free to throw it in the chat, and we'll tell you if you're right or wrong in a private message. You didn't let me tell you.
I'll tell you higher or lower. Let's play that game.
Casey, play the game. No, let's be honest. If you have like a 2-month-old right now, it'd be perfect to get it and then wait. You want them to be like 2 years old, but you're like, that's you, and they can like actually be like, that looks like me, or even 3. What other future projects do we got coming up, Matt? And again, if you're here, if you have any questions about what we're creating, there's no. You are so wrong, Casey.
Man,
it's
Casey.
ridiculous.
Higher.
Just start higher. That would be $1,200 a month. You are way wrong. If you have any questions about what we're doing, there is no such thing as a bad question. If it's your first time watching and you're like, who are you guys? We'll answer that question. If you have questions on the children's books, the comic books, anything else that we're creating, feel free to ask questions. We're here to answer. We also don't need questions. Like, we can easily talk for an hour without you. Matt, what other projects
being doing?
I mean, Matt's doing a lot of talking right now. Matt, what other projects do we have? I'm going to mute Evan. I'm kidding.
Another project we have going on, I mentioned this young adult novel. We'll probably definitely at some point, pull up on the screen a scene from this novel. It's quick history.
No,
can we talk for an hour?
Yeah, we can. Matt'll tell you the premise of this book. It'll take you to the top of the hour.
I know. No, I'll be quick. When someone else is talking, the time goes way slower for Dylan than when he's talking.
Duh.
So it's like molasses right now. But anyway, so premise of this is we want Unfound Adventures to be something that people actually like see a utility in their own life. And entertainment is great, but the overarching idea behind imagining a world where everybody is born with a spiritual companion that walks with them through their life to help them see their destiny and know their purpose and know themselves is how can we reflect this onto our friends, our family, the people that we care about, kids in schools. And so when creating this whole world, it was only a matter of time before we wanted to see ourselves, Bastoonify ourselves into this world. So Dylan is, I thought of this as what would be this like parallel universe if I were really like this shadow profession that I really have a lot of, like I romanticize it, I dream about it, I fantasize about what if I did this other path. For me, it was detective. For Dylan, that was the jester. And so this story, honestly, it happened by accident. For like the last 4 months, I was supposed to be editing a different novel. And then one day I started writing this thing. I was like, yeah, it won't get in the way. It won't. We're still on track for me to finish editing that other novel, the origin story.
End of June.
By the way, I'm still looking to hit June 2024. So
got it. I think we got a shot. I think it's coming up. Can we quick go back to, I'm curious why we don't have jesters in this society anymore, or for like Like again, you could Lakota tribes have the Aoka, ancient tribes having the Jester or the Fool. Evan, I'd be curious your thoughts here. Logic. Why do we
Right.
not have jesters? Like, why does not every head of like a leadership team have a chief jester officer? In your opinion?
I mean,
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
what is the role of a jester? Let's
Like
start there.
Someone who gets the giggles. I think a couple of things. Someone who gets the giggles when leadership takes themselves too seriously, or like a president, CEO takes themselves too seriously.
It's
I think
humbling.
someone to because Casey says like they're stand-up comedians, but like you think about it, a CEO is just like, well, I'm just gonna go to a stand-up show. It has nothing to do with like their day-to-day operation. So I think someone to kind of get the giggles when they take themselves way too seriously. Someone to keep things lighthearted, right? They used to be like the jugglers and stuff, so like to entertain when need be. Someone to keep like, I don't know, people feeling okay. If you think about it, I'm sure this never happens at LinkedIn, but I'm sure other businesses, it's like it can feel tight and stuffy when you go to work or check in. So someone to kind of poke a hole in that balloon. Why do we not have that anymore?
I mean, don't we? I'd say that role is just played by different people, or is distributed now. You know, you've got communications officers, you've got executive assistants who handle executive communications, you've got people managers. You know, chief people officer is now a thing. You've got I don't know, all kinds of jester adjacent capacities in the workplace. So I think it really depends on your understanding of what role a jester fills.
Yeah, but if you like,
But I would argue we do have them.
Yeah, I guess.
Sort
I
of.
still feel like chief people officer as my title, or like chief communications still gets kind of rigid, where it's like we could be tracking LER, or we could be doing this, and it's just like, I don't know. Part of me thinks that it's just like everyone's like, that's too simple. We're not gonna have jesters anymore. And as someone who really wants to be a jester, I want to be like, hey, F you, didn't swear. It's a good
What about-
skill.
You see Casey's comment here about the advent of free speech, which may go a little bit hand in hand with Evan's assessment. It's like if the only person that could really speak the truth back in the day to a king was the jester, and they were like, you could say whatever you want. We don't really take you seriously, but at the same time we do. You're here for a reason. And then now, like, nobody's getting, I wouldn't say nobody, but very few people are getting executed for speaking against our leaders. It's like not a daily occurrence. You can actually say this stuff. Maybe it gets back to them.
Yeah.
My theory is that our leaders don't actually want to be humbled.
Evan clearly didn't like it. He just left.
Tell him he's wrong one sense. Here's the point, right? He just doesn't want to be humbled.
This
Instead,
is why we need jesters.
Yeah,
People
right.
can just leave. Now it's just people tuning in to a Facebook Live of us talking to each other.
Yep. There's a name for that. People do this.
We lost one. Thanks a lot, Evan. Continue, because where you left off, because I did put a pin in it. So this whole book came about on accident.
It came about on accident. And it came about because we started talking about not just how we would Bastunify ourselves, but we've given a lot of thought to what our own callings would be. And now it's just a podcast. Yeah, it's great. And so it was fun to imagine Adder, which is one of Joran's, Venus, which is one of Joran's, and through that process, it was just kind of like a story was just there. I imagine one of the characteristics. This is where I think the entire story fell out of this consideration that Adder, which is kind of like this, you could describe Adder if you want, but let me just say this one piece, is this creature who has these stones over top of his eyes. They're called hagstones. And it's any stone that has like a a bored hole through the middle, and Adder just wears these things on his eyeballs. And so I just thought, well, what does he see? Does he just see through them like goggles into the normal world, or does he see something? Maybe you said this, hard to even remember, but does he see into this different realm?
Let's say it was me.
It was you. It was you. As a matter of fact.
If I think
I'm gonna think of it. I don't have any ideas at all.
Let me tell you all about the book that I'm writing. Continue.
And that was where the story came. It was like, if there's a detective that's going to be somewhere in the story, and then there's a jester somewhere in the story, but the jester has a beast who has these hagstones over his eyes that can't actually see anything, potentially. And then from there, like a big part of the plot, not the whole plot by any means, but the sort of the driving action of this whole story was just there. And I just kind of stayed with it. Elizabeth Gilbert talks about it like chasing down the tiger and trying to catch its tail. It's just like I'm trying to stay with this story and just chase it down and catch it.
I was talking with our editor the other day, and I'm excited for her to read through. She's like, she said that she can definitely tell you're coming into your confidence of like your voice as a writer, as someone that read your first book, Harbinger, the origin novel that we're doing. Am I saying that right? Harbinger?
Yeah, you are.
Because I always wanted to be Harbinger. Anyway, and then seeing this, she's like, it's really cool to see you come into your voice, one. And then two, I told her I'm excited to now we're going to be able to see a book where you really get to see Bastunia, a Bastunia experience where people with full callings, 2 to 3 callings, like they have different masteries. You're actually seeing the magic of this world come out, which hasn't been shown in the comics really yet so far. It's more of just seeing the world. And it hasn't been shown. It really wasn't shown much in the origin novel until the end. So this is going to be one like from the beginning, you see powers that people have in this world and how they utilize them.
Yeah. It's I didn't expect it to be a good introduction into the world. I just thought this is going to be a lot. I don't think I'm capable of taking somebody from literally zero all the way to where you're seeing two guys interact with 3 beasts each, that like utilizing all of the masteries, like basically the magic system. But it's come together in such a way, and maybe I don't think I have to rely on a glossary, honestly. Bella, my wife, is like, you don't want a glossary. Like, that's cheating. I think I still will have a glossary.
Of
We'll
what?
just won't rely on it. Of terms, like as we go through the story, like what's a calling?
I think like just footnotes too of like when you talk about things, you and I chatted about this, when we talk about things like connective range or auric projection versus projectile. I do like projection better, by the way. Like just having like a small term at the bottom so people can feel caught up. I don't know if that feels too elementary, but again, this is young adult novels, not the Mistborn series. I feel like Mistborn's for a little bit more adult, correct? Or is that
And Mistborn has a glossary. I mean, yeah. I mean,
that doubles down then. If it's for young kids, then they probably should look at. I mean, not to say Casey is our whole audience. However, unlike Bella, I now see on all of Casey's posts in our Facebook group, top contributor. Casey Kinsey, top contributor. It used to be.
What does he win?
I mean, I show all of his comments on these Facebook lives.
It could be a sword.
Well, if he already backed, no. Correct.
Yeah, true.
Continue, Matt. I'm sorry.
I got something else for people that have backed. No, this is good. So, what else to say about this story?
I have a question.
I don't want to say too much more about it anyway. So,
all right, just screw whatever you have to say about it. I have my question. Going through like. As I continue to talk with Jonathan Stewart and Narrative Drive and learn, like, trying just to use language more. Obviously, use language like tropes and use language like, let's just say tropes. I started doing research on magic systems. And I'm curious, question for both of you. When you think of Bastunia, Matt, what you and I have been talking about, and then Evan, as you hear from us, right? Do you see it leaning more of a hard magic system or a soft magic system? Like hard magic, like having like specific rules, archetypes. Like this is the case. This is when you can use it. It's got limitations. Any example that I give is going to be much more anime focused. When you think of like Hunter x Hunter, very hard magic system. Do you guys have any examples from fantasy nerds?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Mistborn.
Mistborn, yeah, it would probably be one.
Archive, Harry Potter.
No, that's the thing. They say
strictly hard.
Soft magic. Soft magic when it's like magic can be there to color the world, but it kind of comes in here and there. What I've read is Harry Potter leans a bit more that way, where it's here
low
to color
magic.
Low
Fantasy is what it used to be called.
Low fantasy / soft magic. Low magic. So but you know what I mean? It's like it's there to color the world. But there's like really like there's not a lot of limitations. You could do some crazy things in Harry Potter. Would you see the world of Bestunia leaning more high magic or high fantasy, hard magic? Or do you see it leaning more low fantasy, low magic, soft magic? Curious.
My big problem with Harry Potter, and
okay.
I like Harry Potter.
You're talking Harry Potter.
No, I'm a fan of Harry Potter. My big problem with Harry Potter is that, as the story kept going, it became pretty clear that there was definitely going to be a magical solution to any possible problem you could think of, to the point where they're literally traveling through time. And at that point, it's just the stakes don't feel very real anymore. And again, I'm a big fan of Harry Potter. I think it's a perfectly enjoyable story and franchise independent of that. But if I had my biggest nit to pick with strictly the story, would be that. Yeah. And so I think if you go down that road, you can't backpedal. Once you have like a time turner out there, you can't just pretend that it doesnn't exist, or
let's just use it to save.
It only works for Hermione. Yeah, exactly. You get the idea.
That was well. It's also, didn't Tolkien kind of get stuck in this too with those huge eagles that come at the end?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that would suck to be such an incredible writer. You know what I mean? Like people base so much off Tolkien. And then to have someone just be like, yeah, well, didn't really make a lot of sense that the Eagles just carried him away at the end when they could have taken him up. That would suck. So I guess with that, are you then saying, Evan, you see it leaning more or want us to push it more towards hard magic?
I just think that the moment you make everyone in the world a wizard or witch, just like the auric powers are already, potentially extremely powerful. I think that one thing that hasn't really been explored is like, what are the daily limitations of these powers? Why isn't everyone essentially a walking wizard using their psychically connected spirit beast to just lift things and put out fires and blah blah blah, like why is there, what are the checks and balances on this, and what does society look like when essentially everybody is born with a beast and every beast has these auric powers? I think that what still needs to be shown, I mean, I know what you guys have discussed, but what still needs to be shown is how that paints a human picture.
Yeah.
Matt, your thoughts before I come in there? Because I do think you do a really good job. Sorry, I just said your thoughts and then I started talking. I won't talk.
The young adult novel does address this. It addresses a lot of stuff like this, I think. Just
if I do say so myself, it's incredible.
Yeah, you have such good ideas, Dylan. Thanks for those, man. It's nice to be up in the morning and be like, it's 5:30 in the morning. I start to write. I'm like, Dylan, what's my next word? Okay, God, what are you thinking next?
I'm trying to find something to juggle horribly right now. Go ahead.
But no, I do think it actually talks about this. You have characters that are that end up with these like psychic parasites that inflame their anger to such a degree that like they throw caution to the wind, and they're just trying to destroy basically at the end of the story. They're just trying to destroy these two guys. And instead of the two guys like just running off into the wilderness and hiding from them, while they succeed in basically suicide through mastery, they're like, I know they're trying to kill us, but we have to stop them from killing themselves here. And so I think there's opportunities in that for them for the implication is without you personally checking and balancing and being cautious about your own usage, you can like burn yourself out.
I think any good guardrails for a power system, I'd say it leans more hard magic. I think we have specific masteries that can be used. You can't use every single mastery. I think that's part of it, right? So you can create archetypes with it. But then the guardrails, I think the easiest guardrails when creating a magic system is just space and time, right? It's either these people are going to have a guardrail of the area in which they can use this, like who's got a power called Altered State, which is a psychedelia power that Matt writes a chapter in this novel that as you're reading it, you're like, what the heck is going on? Which is exactly what you're after. But that altered state can't be extrapolated to the entirety of Bastunia, right? It's not like, let's just put everybody in an altered state. So I think that's a part of space. And I think also with it, it's just like time. What we're going to see towards the end, I'm going to say as vague as possible, but a calling using a new mastery and realizing that it just has a time limit. Or they're going to wear on the human energy that it takes to go into it.
Yeah. Even the first chapter of that story, they're talking about Pendelv trying to sneak his way into this town so that nobody knows that the detective has arrived. Because as soon as they know the detective is there, they tend to get a little weird, change their behavior and whatnot. And he's like, got the set of his jaw. He's walking through this fog that's created by one of his beasts. And when they finally get there, he's like, releases his jaw, and he's like a little bit worn out by it. Over time, even just something as simple as activating this, prolonging this mastery is just wearing on him.
I also think, Evan, you've had a really good, people that come watch this, you get to really know what goes behind the scenes. Evan had a really good example too of with a godly entity really helping this society progress, right? And gifting them callings. To then take advantage of your calling's mastery is draining the energy that your god has to help progress society. So when we get to an area like the Fall and we don't have a god there, you're really like left to wonder, did we do, like some people might, did we do this by overusing our calling's ability and like bastardizing them in a sense? Go ahead, Evan.
Yeah, so I mean
with Casey.
that has more appeal to me from like the thematic standpoint of like this.
Dude,
It's always on me.
It's always when he thought he's gonna
drops the mic 15 seconds
For
too soon.
anyone curious, it's because Evan's losing connection. He's not a good pauser. I promise.
I hate this. I hate this. I don't even remember what I was saying anymore. Forget it. I'm done.
You like it as a female.
I'm going back to drawing. I don't care.
Yeah, stick to drawing, man.
I don't care. And there we go. Let me answer Casey's question. I want to make sure I got it right, Casey, and ask it differently if I'm not getting it. But what I'm hearing is, the people's psychic connection, or we would just call connection with their calling, ever suck? Which I think I get that. Like, is it a funny or crappy mastery that they have, or are they always very closely connected? So I don't know the second part. When you say, are they always very?
I think he means, is it weak? Is it ever distant?
What do you mean?
Do people's psychic connection with their calling sometimes drift off into this like weak, distant, disconnected, thin scrap?
I still don't.
Are they not powerful?
Oh,
Are they
Yeah.
unpowerful?
yeah. I think what we're gonna see, right, is because a calling. Oops. Like you can't get your calling to do what you want. Yeah, I think so the connection between that's a really good question. So let me try to answer this for the first time. I think the connection one has with their calling is as you progress and you really live into it, because again, this calling is supposed to be utilized for your place in the world. I think the more you lean into it, the more powerful the mastery becomes with your calling. So does someone ever have like a really what's the question? If does someone their calling can't do what they want them to do, it's like I don't even think they're at a level themselves for their calling to do what they want them to do. I think the calling will almost always do what the human wants them to do, but we're not progressing in our calling, which means our calling couldn't perform. But as I say that out loud, I don't know. I'd be curious your thoughts, Matt. There are definitely going to be. I'd love the comedian in me would love to have callings and people that just have odd masteries and they just do weird things. But I think that's going to be able to come more as we world build and have more material out. And it seems really difficult to take pages and dedicate them towards something funny when we could be trying to progress a main story to at least get people bought in. But that's how I look at it. Matt, do you look at it any differently?
I think maybe, I don't know, maybe not differently, but like a turning of the stone slightly for this is like with Kai back here, my husky. Kai can't go more than a couple of days without running around outside. He's a husky, and if I were to be like soulfully connected to Kai, there's always going to be this energy within me that has a will of its own. Let's go explore. Let's go explore. Let's go explore. He's scratching at the door. Let's go explore. And I think an explorer beast would be that for somebody. It's I don't have to open the door. We don't have to go outside, but our connection is going to suffer. And so I suppose, like you said, you can't get your calling to do what you want them to. I think callings have wills of their own that they're utilizing to lead you. You can ignore that, and your connection with that calling suffers. You suffer. You stray from your path. You don't know your calling very well. You can't see the behaviors of your calling, what they need, and thereby what you need. And then as to I think to go along with what you were saying, Dylan, like the more you pay attention to that, I mean, they're there for you. It's supposed to be showing you where your path is. The more you acknowledge it, the stronger that connection gets, the deeper it is, the more powerful you become, the more your wills are in sync. And then it's just like everything becomes easier.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think that question, you can't get your calling to do what you want them to. You could get to that point with enough by ignoring them for long enough. Or like something's got to give here, man. Like you can't keep.
I really like the dog wanting to go for a walk analogy, and I think the more that you say no, the dog just gets fed up. You know what I mean? And then just becomes just a lazy dog. I think the whole concept of what we've thought when we're talking about the idea of callings is you innately know what your inner genius is, and how often we just don't lean into that is your calling suffering in Bestunia. It's like when it's funny because Casey's asking the question, and you've read the War of Art. It's like if someone consistently lets resistance win a Zigra, that calling isn't going to progress. That calling's going to stay more in an infantile state than this, where we see James having these badass callings because he's leaned into his genius. As much as it's hurt him in certain areas, he just knows this is what he's called to do. He gets a stronger and stronger connection and more powerful calling because of it. Do you have? I really want to ask Evan questions, but I'm afraid that we're going to lose him. Do you want to?
I'm here.
Yes,
I'm here. Ask. Go for it. What's your question?
It's Shoot. Casey's question, which is, just coming back to Casey's question of what do you really think? Matt, can you try this here as we're in my list?
Yeah, I mean, So the question exactly is, do people's psychic connection with their callings ever suck? Or are they always very closely connected? If the second part of that question is the inverse of the first part of the question, then how would you respond to that? Yeah, suck. Sucking, not closely connected.
I would say yes. I think you need them to suck. You need them to. You need that as a story mechanism. You need that as a world building mechanism. You need that as either a consequence or cause of the era that is known as the Fall, in which we currently find ourselves with Joan and Artie and James. I think it needs to be tied to that. It could be a consequence. Everyone has lost like any kind of hope, and so everyone has started neglecting their calling in a pernicious way. Or it's more of a like a symptom of a societal underpinning that reflects a deep misunderstanding of callings, both in terms of like how they're categorized, builder, explorer, whatever, these very rigid systems of you are this thing because this is what your spirit beast is, or something deeper than that.
Yeah. I like that a basic premise of how we're teaching this to kids is like all essentially founded on a over-identification of like your beast type.
Right.
And I'm okay with it. I think the lesson can come at the very end. We're like, this whole time.
Yes, I'm kind of curious y'all's thoughts on it, because it is something that hearing that from Evan, I'm like, yeah, and it is like it's going to be a while until people learn that lesson, and it's what we're doing. That being said, a question that we'll ask kids in school, and like I'm trying to be intentional with this from it, is like, hey, you're going to walk all of these paths throughout your life. Which one do you feel like you're walking right now? Because then I at least think, and I could be wrong here, but how I look at it is like a kid knowing like right now, I love trying new things. I'm an explorer right now. I think that gives them a sense of identity when it's like, it could be so easily be like, well, no, you're supposed to do this, then this, and don't get outside. I think it gives us a lens of being like, this is what my kid cares about right now. Will that change? For sure. It's like, there's times I'm like, man, I thought of 3 callings and I even want more. But I think the idea of thinking about it in the first place, personally, is where we're at. Like most society doesn't even ask themselves that. They're like, let me just go through the routines.
It's a bridge.
Yeah.
It's like a bridge in the sense that like an antidepressant is a bridge, or a lot of medicines are bridges. Like they're not supposed to be this thing that you live with forever. Mm-hmm. But in a time when you need to get from across into knowing yourself, take the bridge. And then the bridge doesn't lead you where you need to go anymore. You're there. So like carry on without it. So there's Dylan, definitely utility.
I'm sensing from you, where am I going? Here it is. I'm sensing from you like a bit of a reticence as to like embracing that, given that, you don't want to like reveal it to people until it's appropriate. I don't think that's necessary. I mean, it's kind of like knowing that the good guys are going to win in the end, or the dramatic irony of knowing that Harry Potter is the chosen one, even though he doesn't seem to know it himself, or whatever the case may be. Like you can know those things, and the purpose of the story is not lessened in teaching that lesson, or acting out that lesson. And giving you the emotional, dramatic, narrative touch point to really conceptualize that lesson in a deeper way.
And you're saying you can tell that, you can basically give away the ending. It would be the word that I say. Not only like if
you can set the idea that you plant the seed. I think it's okay if this is a lesson that comes out in drip format. I think that Joan as a character is like someone who is a very good vessel for that lesson too. But I think it can be pretty obvious that, there's something wrong with this world. It has to do with, the society's understanding of callings and how they have prescribed means of achieving their purpose. As opposed to being more internal than that, or being more fluid than that, or being more being deeper than that on some level. Like, I know that that's exactly what you want to explore, but I think it's something that could be even more explicitly a part of the overarching set.
Yeah. No, agreed. I would say we partly do that with James talking to the climbers in book 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
But just consistently hammering that home and figuring out who can be the conduit of that lesson. I think obviously, like you say, Joan being a really good one. Just seeing if there's anyone else that kind of comes into play.
Joan's interesting because she's like the only person that'll ever not have to unlearn in this era the fault in that thinking. Plus, her calling, spoiler alert, is no ordinary calling.
Don't tell anybody,
The infantile
Casey.
God himself.
Don't tell anybody, Casey.
Yeah, Casey. Jeez. Yeah. Whereas everybody else is kind of born in this area where I think even James accidentally will fall into it sometimes. Just like anybody, I can give advice, and I know that it's good advice because it's the advice that I need. It's like I need to remind myself of this stuff. It's like James can tell the climbers, don't get too obsessed with the fact that that's an explorer beast and this type, because that will limit your thinking on how you can utilize this connection with this calling.
Which
and at the same time, like James probably does it sometimes.
Yeah, and this could be right now. What I'm doing is I don't want to get in I'm crossing thresholds of both storytelling and seeing real world application. For those that aren't, by the way, Casey, I would love nothing more. That would be the only reason I'd want to drive to Indiana is one, meet you in person, and then help schools down there. If we can get a school visit sponsored, I'd love to go outside of our
Crossroads of America.
Be amazing.
I like that your state motto is basically saying, I know you're just passing through.
oh, just want to scoop past you there. What was I going to say? Oh, like the real world application for anyone not reading our newsletters, because they are long and I do apologize and I'll get better at making them shorter. Matt and I recently went to an event in Denver. You cool if we shift here, Matt?
Yeah, let's shift.
Going to this event in Denver where you were there with your company and I was there with my company. We just got to hang out and you let me crash in your hotel room on the other queen bed. We were chatting with a guy on my team, head of sales, very rigid in his thinking. Hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. And we're sitting out for, we were going out for dinners and drinks after one of the days, Matt's company and my company combined. And me, Matt, and this guy named Matt 2, because I'm not going to keep calling him Matt and Matt. Matt 2. We're chatting about what Matt 2's calling would look like. He's just been following us for a while, and he's like, oh, well, I know I'm a builder and because I love music and I'm creating. I want to be a builder maker because I'm creating this. And you start to see someone use these, yes, rigid types, but using these types to like really breathe life into what he's doing. And he's like, I'd want to know what my calling looks like to represent this. And we're chatting with him, not thinking anything of it. And this guy, head of sales, you're going to love this, Evan. Head of sales, his name is Riker. Doesn't that just sound like a head of sales name?
Is this a comic character?
No, it's a real character. His name is Alexander, and he doesn't go by Alex. His name is Alexander Riker, and he goes by Riker. Head of sales.
It's not a Daredevil villain?
Oh, dude. It's either a Daredevil villain or head of sales. But it just clearly someone that I would think as just very to the point, logical. He literally wears a turtlenecks, dresses in all black, head of sales. And he just starts asking questions. I swear this man is made up. I promise you he's not made up. I promise you. I kind of feel bad saying his name.
You couldn't do better than Alex Riker.
Alexander Riker. He doesn't go by Alex.
That's not better.
I swear to God. God is the best author there is. Or universe. Sorry for anyone there. Jesus, dude. I can't even say Jesus. Riker kind of chimes in and starts asking questions. He's like, well, I'm a builder. And like, I remember Matt and I looking at him and like kind of just continuing to talk with Matt too, because we didn't realize if we heard it or not. And then Matt 2's like, well, I'm a maker right now. And Riker stepped back in and he's like, well, what do you think I am? And we're like, are you actually asking us questions about this? So we start asking him questions of if he feels like he's more of a builder, maker, breaker, strategist. And we gave him, and then we're like, well, what do you think? And he's like, a builder strategist, kind of. And we're like, that's cool. So that's what you're walking right now. And then we're like, so what do you think your calling would look like? And then after that, we can get into what its mastery or what its power is. And then Matt, too, kind of chimes in. He's like, well, I'd want mine to look like a dire wolf and this and this and this. And Riker chimes in again, and now he's giving us advice. And we're like, who the hell is this guy? And he's like, well, don't you think you should do mastery first? Like, shouldn't I know what my gift is before I know what a calling would look like to really accentuate that? And there was like this pause, and I'm like, yeah, kind of. I mean, that actually makes a lot of sense if that's where you're like where you want to really like tap in. So anyway, he figures out that he's got an internal talent, and he really wants to lean into his intuition because it's been something that he just hasn't been thinking of. And then he's like, okay, now that I know that, I want it to be kind of like this mysterious, dark kind of calling, believe it or not, from the guy that wears the turtleneck and all black. It was like a black jaguar mixed with eagle, which Evan will eventually draw because I think he also donated. But as much as that's rigid, right, and we see the downplay in society in Bestunia, what I see in our society is like people being like, yo, I have a gift and I would love it signified in this totem. So it's like, is there a balance of the two? Do you guys like, I know it's more of a philosophical question. Is it bad to tap into what your beast and beast type would be in mastery to help you have a little bit more depth to what you do?
I think this goes back to...
I was going to go Evan first.
Evan first, yeah, sure.
No is the short answer. I don't think so. I think that...
What was my question again?
I don't know. No, that's my... no, I don't think it's bad. I think these things exist for a reason. These frameworks exist for a reason, both in Bestunia and in the real world. The problem is when they are relied on too much, or they become a crutch in place of that kind of being open to evolution.
Yeah, it's like someone it's like, as someone that leans into my horoscope from time to time, I'm like, oh yeah, just the fire element of a Sagittarius. I'm just naturally someone that's going to go try new things, and I love that archetype. Versus someone that looks at the daily horoscope and they're like, well, I have to do this today because that's what an Aries would do.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot. But it's also think of it as something that is incremental. Like, we teach children in ways that are often kind of absolutist. Mm-hmm. Even just teaching color, we teach them that there are like 3 primary colors, 3 secondary colors, and that's it. You mix these two, you mix blue and yellow, and you get green. There's a lot more to the spectrum of color. There's a lot more to the spectrum of mixing colors to obtain green. There are lots more to greens out there. And once you get into like chartreuse and color invasions, how colors work off of one another, the framework sort of breaks down. It's not nearly as simple. Once you introduce values, everyone knows I love to talk about values. But, red and blue, red is not always the same value. Red is not always the same value when you're talking about dark red, light red. As soon as you introduce all of these additional factors, it becomes less valuable to think of the 3 primary and the 3 secondary colors. But that example, I probably got off on a lot of tangents. Point being that, if Explorer, Builder, and everything, all of these frameworks for understanding one's calling has a purpose and has a place and has value for certain people or for certain points in their journey, it can then become the opposite of that if one clings to it too tightly. And I think that's as much as anything what Tales of Bestunia is ultimately about.
Clip it. Paula, if you end up watching these, clip it. 54-20 to 54-37. Matt,
Anyone want to talk about this bonkers picture that we're working on now? Because we've definitely switched gears here.
who gives a crap? Yeah, with this, I mean, the question that I posed today in the group is, what do you think is happening right now? Matt, do we want to read some of the answers?
Yes, we do. I can pull them up if you want.
I will definitely pull them up. Let's see. Home.
Is it on your page or
No, it was on the Unfound page. Unfound. I think it was one of the last ones. You go, and then I'll go, and then you go, and then I'll go.
Casey? We'll start with Casey's. He says, so let's start with a clam with legs.
First off, you're spot on. Next was, I don't know, but it looks like a chaotic good time with fungi, which I replied to Katie. Is there anything? Isn't it always? Next one, Matt.
Kind of looks like, I don't know why she says you. It kind of looks like you are carrying everyone and everything on your back.
She knows me all too well.
Because you're the jester in the picture, I guess.
Susan Tom. As soon as I replied with, sometimes I do feel that way. Susan just says, I love this pic. So I'll go to the next one. Mushroom saving the day. Then we have everyone's going on an adventure with a shroom. Then we have cliff jumping. And then we have dwarf carrying a clam with a lady sitting on the corner of the clam. Some roots are growing up instead of... All right. Evan, explain
Definitely my favorite one right there.
Explain what we do have going on.
Well, we have, and I'm going to color code it a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. I know everything's all gray and everything's all one value right now. Shame on me, but
Casey's rolling his eyes somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
of Indiana.
definitely. But what we have is which is one of Dylan's calling, or in the context of this story, one of this guy's callings. Not Pendel, Joran the Jester.
Clearly not me.
Clearly not Dylan at all, of course, nor inspired by him in any way, shape, or form. And this is who I'm coloring in purple here, or in a light lilac, is a large mushroom-like calling. He has two big burly arms and two kangaroo legs and a peacock's tail. He is leaping into the air, carrying a lot of individuals to safety. And the two of the folks he is carrying to safety are Joran the Jester, here in this teal.
How quickly you can do this is pretty wild, where you don't go outside the lines.
Masking. And then we have Pendel the Parser, which is Matt the Detective, Matt's detective alter ego.
These are our auras too, Matt. Blue and light green.
We have...
Oh, I was thinking that too.
Tugach, which is Pendel the Parser's calling. Is that right, Matt?
Yep, nailed it.
Okay. And we've got Adder, which is another one of Joran the Jester's callings.
Correct.
Big dog with the hagstone eyes. We have...
This is kind of a test for Evan to see how, and he's passing right now.
We have a the red panda has what, 9 tails, Matt?
It's 8. This one has 8.
The 8-tailed red panda right there in the yellow.
You did just cheat, but we'll give it. We'll let that slide.
Yeah, I did. We've got this tiny alligator-like creature with patagium between its arms, so like the skin of a flying squirrel.
Name?
I'm gonna look. Luke with an H.
And then of course, looking for the next one, Justin.
And then of course we have Smitha. Which is this large palm-like creature that is growing vines all along the surface of this mushroom for all of these various folks to hang on to. So there we go, color-coded legend to what is going on in this bacchanalian orgy of a picture that Matt and Dylan somehow managed to get me to put together.
If you had the over for 0.5 bacchanalian orgy terms mentioned, you actually won. Congratulations, winning that over. I took a picture of that. Matt, are you wanting me to show yours, and then I have a final question for Evan?
Yeah, we can do that real quick. So there he is.
There's that now we're seeing that now. He's carrying all of them. And real quick, Evan, as he's carrying them, because he's got Adder like this, right?
Yeah, under his arm.
Is
That's right.
Is it kind of one of these that he's jumping with?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So I saw that, and that's pretty good. Bacchanalian Orgy phrase of the day. Also, Casey, is a great way to start this as we wind down. I left work early for this one value. Come on. And as we see Chugach up top left, bring Mats to stage. There's Chugach. Evan, first off, we got such a friggin' good creator on our team, illustrator. He loves praise. He absolutely loves praise. So if you're watching this, whether on the replay or live, give Evan a bunch of praise. Tag him. He loves seeing it. He loves the notifications. Give it to him. Give it to him. Give it to him. Evan, you started off kind of like getting rough ideas. That's what we saw 2 weeks ago, and then, or maybe a month ago, and then you started putting more of like the picture together. Then you kind of shaded the whole thing with where it's at now. A Bacchanalian Orgy.
Yeah.
What is left on something like this? And try to say it without values.
I mean, it really depends on the kind of finish we're going for. If we're gonna match basically what we achieve with the comics and a lot of calling creations, I'll be cleaning up the line work, which you essentially see me doing here with Pendelve. So I'm basically scribing brand new line work for him over top, and I'll do that with everybody, which will involve, among other things, solving some of the unknowns, like how Venus's tails are going to work, or fake Dylan's extra long beard that he definitely likes to wear like a scarf.
His name's Joran.
Joran and his beard, which he definitely likes to wear as a scarf. And of course, all of the vines, which here I'm really just like indicating in a shorthand. A lot of this is still in shorthand. So it's much like taking notes or writing an outline. Now I need to actually go in there and, write the actual sentences, the actual essay, whatever it is, the paper. So that involves a lot of like the detail work of just making sure the lines read appropriately, the line weight is reading appropriately, things like that. And then, of course, it's just color.
And Matt, that'd be a question for Matt as we kind of finish up. What do you see? Do you see this as a picture that's more just like a comic? Where do you see us using this? Like, what's kind of going on in your mind? And then I have one last thing.
Yeah, it's early enough in this story that I'm not opposed to using it as a cover image for the young adult novel, and all our research onto what does a fantasy detective cover look like. There's not like rules or expectations. Name your favorite fantasy detective.
Geralt.
I'll go personally with Geralt.
Geralt.
That's what I said.
Geralt.
Fake nerd.
There we go. I can't think of another
Witcher.
one. Witcher, yeah. Can you think of a second?
The guy that plays Geralt after Henry. I'm just kidding. He doesn't.
First Henry Cavill, then the Avengers.
I'm gonna come, just so you know that this is getting to me, Evan. I'm gonna start coming here and asking you questions about My Hero Academia, Hunter x Hunter, and if you can't answer them, I'm calling you a fake nerd.
Shoot,
as in I can actually ask you?
No, shoot as in you can actually call me a fake nerd.
Yeah. Continue, Matt.
Sticks and stones.
So, yeah.
Glue. You're glue. I'm gonna be rubber. I'm being glue right now.
I'm thinking that with how involved this is and how epic this is becoming, that I want people to be able to see it. And it is a bit crazy, but we'll find a way to make sense of it. I even think like a lot of cover art is a crazy hodgepodge in like a nonsensical way of a lot of the story elements anyway. This is just a crazy hodgepodge of a lot of the story elements that can be composed into a sensible image if you just cross your eyes the right way.
bill us accordingly, Evan. Because there's what I was going to say is, yeah, I guess it does make sense to go hard line, potentially a good cover photo. I think there's a lot that we create where, like, this clearly isn't an example, but where a fast sketch, especially with Evan's talent with it, is enough. Like, I think having a fast sketch in Harbinger or having a fast sketch in the middle of Behind the Shroud makes sense.
Yeah.
I honestly think too, Evan, is one of the things I was telling you when we were texting, is having a fast sketch for some of these kids, like the first pass of what their calling might look like without the second pass, without all the shading, just for the beginning of picture or the beginning of books. I think it's less time for you, and it still is able to say, hey, we're sketching this. Like, you'll see that a lot with SBS's, which is what, Evan? SBS?
I don't know.
Fake nerd. Where Oda does fast sketches of Luffy and some of the characters. Like, I still get what I'm seeing. You know what I mean? I think we can do more of that as time goes on. Even Casey, if you're still here, if you see any other of those callings you want to take a stab at, with your capacity, of course, I've been meaning to tell you, feel free to go nuts. That being said, we're 5 minutes past. We try to end on the hour every time. We appreciate everyone coming, asking questions. We appreciate it. Chad, good to see you. Casey, good to see you. I believe my mom's probably watching right now. Mom, I love you. It was awesome. We'll be back in a couple of weeks to give you a little bit more from the children's book as we create it and get a full profile of Joran the Jester and Pendelv the Parser. Love you all. See you later.